Just like any business, launching products on Amazon requires the right preparation and the right plan. Numbers and making money is the main reason anyone is doing a business. So in order to start properly, you have to work on this department first. So we'll begin with your product's cost. So once you've figured out your product and you know what to sell, you contact multiple suppliers. Each supplier gives you a quotation and the details about your product. Once you have figured out the best option out of all the suppliers, you have an idea of what your product is gonna cost per 1 unit. The way that you do that is you divide the total cost of manufacturing by the number of units that you want to make. So that would be the cost for manufacturing one item. But there are still a lot of steps that would add up to find the final cost per unit, such as the cost of shipping to Amazon. So for example, if your supplier is in China, you have to calculate the shipping cost from China to the Amazon warehouses. Now there are multiple ways to do that shipment, and there's a lot of options for you to choose from. But once you have figured out the best cost-efficient solution to sending your products to Amazon, you add this total cost to the total cost of manufacturing your units. And now you have a new total cost that you're gonna divide by the total number of units again, and see the total cost per unit. Or if you have any extra costs, such as the cost of packaging or cost of boxes, or even labeling, you keep adding it to the total number, and once you get that final number, you divide it by the total units to get the finalized cost per unit. So once you have the finalized cost per unit, you begin to estimate what your profit margin is gonna look like. The minimum profit margin that you should have is at least 3 times the cost per unit. So for example, if the cost per unit for your product is $5, having a profit margin between $10 to $15 is what you should be looking at. And then anything above the 3 times profit margin is going to be a good profit margin. So if your profit margin is 4 times the cost per unit, or 5 times, or 6 times, or even 10 times, the higher the number, the better it is for your business. As well as calculating all the Amazon fees, such as the referral fee, the storage fee, the fulfillment fee, and all the minimal fees as well. Now the second step that you need to do is to evaluate your product. You give your own and honest evaluation of your product yourself. So first, begin with the quality of your product. In order to know the exact quality of your product, you have to have samples sent to you. You have to look at the quality of the design, how appealing it is to people. You also have to look at the portability of it, if it's heavy or light, or if it's small or big. You also have to see how long it can last the customer for. For example, if it's a cheap product, it might not last the customer for a very long time, but a higher quality product would last the customer a longer period of time. You assess all that with your samples, alongside with the experience that you have with the knowledge about these kinds of products. So once you have all the details about your product, you can now make a list of all the uses. You put all the uses, even if they were so small. So you begin with the major uses of your product, and you go all the way down to the smaller uses. And of course, the more uses that you have, the higher value product you'd have, especially if it has multiple major uses. Once you have figured out the list for uses, you have to figure out a list for benefits. So you make a list with all the major and minor benefits of your product. Benefits are just as important as uses, if not even better, because having a product that's seen as beneficial is a major factor for your product's value. So for example, having multiple uses could be seen as a benefit, and portability and accessibility is also a benefit. And just as uses, the more major benefits that you have, the higher value your product's gonna be. So once you figure out the uses and benefits, now you have to understand your target audience. You have to have an idea for the exact target audience that you have. Are they people of certain age? Is it for men or women? Or is it for everyone? So once you figure out your target audience, it's gonna help you evaluate your product better, because you're gonna look at it from their perspective. So for example, if your target audience are middle-aged women, they're gonna look at your product differently from a young male adult. So now you can think about your product from their point of view. You think about questions such as, how important is it for them to have your product? Or is it a product that they want but they don't need? So if you concluded that your target audience are gonna like your product and gonna wanna purchase it, then this would make your product more valuable. Now, a final point for evaluating your product is the supply and demand. Now, reaching to this point, you already understand exactly what your product is and how valuable it is, and you are able to compare it to the marketplace. You look into the Amazon marketplace and you see competitors. You look into their products and you analyze them, and you try your best to compare them with the product that you have in hand. You also want to see how successful these listings are, so you would see how valuable your product is compared to these competitors. So if they have a successful listing, this means that there is a demand for this product. So analyze your competitors and see how many they are in order for you to understand the supply and demand available that is on Amazon. So once you do all the steps for evaluation, you come up with an honest price that is fitting for your listing. So once you do that, you compare it to the cost per item that we calculated before, and you see what your profit margin is, and you see if your product is worth it or not from a business standpoint. Now, the third thing that you need to work on is a plan for marketing. You need to figure out how you're gonna market this product and doing all the preparation before you launch it. Now, on Amazon, there are multiple factors to help you in marketing. The first and foremost is your images. You have to have good, clear, and informative images on your listing that would help you get high click rates and high conversion rates. In these images, you have to show how valuable your product is and how useful and how beneficial. Going back to the list that we made earlier, you want to see how you're going to transform these ideas into images, because as important as figuring out this information, it's important to demonstrate it in a nice way. Also, make sure to have a high quality and high resolution images. So what I would recommend is getting these images done before you launch your product. So if you have samples, you go and make photo shoots that would help you get these images. Alongside images would be a nice video that would show all the uses and benefits as well. Now the next step is doing keyword research. You figure out all the right keywords and right phrases that match your listing. These keywords and phrases are what your customers use to search and find your product. Once you have a listing that's filled with these keywords, it's going to elevate your SEO ranking. Elevating your SEO ranking would help you rank up organically on Amazon, showing it to more people from your target audience. Now, the way that you implement them on your listing is first and foremost through your title. Your title is one of the most important factors for your product's SEO. So it's important to use all the 200 characters available and putting in the right keywords and right phrases in your title. So you have to figure out a good title for your product's listing. Also, your product's description would help you with SEO as well. Putting in the right keywords and right phrases in there to help you rank organically as well. There is also the A+ content section and the brand story section for branded products, where you can put more images and more description in there as well. So you have to figure out how you want to optimize your listing before launching it, implementing all this content and information in a nice but also a smart way. Once you have figured out a plan for optimizing your listing, you figure out a plan for advertising. Now, there are multiple ways you can choose to advertise your product. You can choose to advertise your product outside of Amazon and do a plan on the platform that you want to use. You can also choose to advertise with Amazon campaigns. Advertising on Amazon is pay-per-click. You also want to have a list for keywords and phrases that you want to market on. Figuring out these keywords is the most challenging part, but figuring out these keywords and phrases are what you need to be working on. Putting them into campaigns and figuring out the budget that you want to spend per day. Figuring out the budget for advertising is very important. You want to see the maximum limit that you want to spend for you to remain in a good profit margin. Ideally, to get one sale, you don't want to spend more of what that product costs. So for example, if your product costs $5, you don't want your campaign spending more than $5 to get one sale. Now with Amazon, this is getting a bit difficult because they're hiring their cost per click, but you need to study this information prior to launching your product. Doing that is important because if you decide to go with Amazon campaigns, you need to know how much it will cost you to do that. So always be smart with your budget and be as much prepared as you can be, because marketing itself requires its own budget and you need to figure out that number before you launch your product. You want to try to push your new products as much as you can, but you also want to be smart and have a good profit margin. A lot of people don't figure that out and find themselves spending a lot of money on advertising and not getting sales. And this entire business would fail in a short period of time. So this is why it's so important to figure out all the numbers before you launch your product. This leads to the last section I want to talk about is your product's projection. Having a projection in mind is important. You want to have a short-term goal and a long-term goal. Now, of course, when you start, there's a lot of things that you pay for that you don't pay with time. And these are one-time payment fees, such as cost per samples and cost for some photo shoots and videos, cost for designing, cost for packaging, testing campaigns, and a lot of other things as well. So with time, it's most likely for your cost per unit to be less. Once your cost per unit is going to be less, your profit margins are going to be higher. So you have figured out a plan for the short-term goal and you're still profitable. It's good for you because this means your long-term plan is going to be profitable as well. Also with projection, you want to see if your product is seasonal or not. Seasonal items can be tricky because they might not be the best products to invest in. But if you have a product that's good all year long, investing in these types of products are better than seasonal items. In general, your listing is going to get better with time, but having a short-term goal and a long-term goal is always going to be good for you to stay on track. So these are the steps that you need to work on before launching your product. Figuring out all this information is going to help you short-term and also long-term. The more prepared you are, the most likely your product is going to be successful on Amazon. So always be prepared and have a plan before you launch anything on Amazon. I hope you found value in this video. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you're interested in a consultation, please check the link below. Thank you for watching and see you next time.